Hello, everybody. Happy New Year. It's Garrett Brown from Channel Program. I know it's been a minute. I hope everybody had good holidays and a Happy New Year. There's a lot of pretty cool things happening here in 2025. And we actually have this is our first demo days of 2025. So I'm very excited. We have Heath Kellerman from Total here. How you doing, Heath?
Hey guys, what's cracking today? How are you?
Doing good, man. Doing
Good.
good. Where are you? Where are you located?
We're in freezy Denver.
Oh, I bet. What's the gosh, you guys are pretty high up there. So what was temperature?
Well, I mean, on the Front Range here downtown, it really doesn't get that bad right now. Right now, it's I don't know, it's been 0 recently, so that's kind of that's not normal for us. So up the
Okay.
mountain, different story, but we're getting our dose of it down here in the city area, if as it were.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. Uh, so just to, before we kick it off, as some of you know, if you're joining us from prior demo days, and for those of you who aren't aware of it, what today is about is we are going to have a demo with Heath, and he's going to show the total platform. But this is something, an opportunity for you to see, what they're all about, the value, what they can do for your MSP. And on top of that, we are streaming live to LinkedIn and YouTube, so you can drop a comment, and if I see it, if it's a question or anything at all, I can pull it up, and you can have your question answered. And yeah, and well, I guess from there we'll just Heath, I will hand it over to you. So tell us more about Total. What do you guys do, and what are you going to show today?
Yeah, for sure. So thanks for having me. Yeah, so my name's Heath Kellerman. I'm the manager of onboarding and deployment here at Total. I come to Total from working inside the MSP space for a lot of years. So the sheer number of problems that we're solving here is just pretty spectacular. Total is an end-to-end security platform. I'm going to show off some of the company info today.
Mm-hmm.
And more importantly, the portal, the actual MSP level tool that we offer to
Yeah.
MSPs downstream as far as consolidation across a complete tool stack that you're using today in some form or another, and or you should be if you're not.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're going to
Yeah.
kind of take a look at the full breadth of the the company as well as the platform, the way that you can go to market with these things, the resources that Total has put into play for go to market to assist as far as the components that we bring forward. And, we offer a lot. So this is a true partnership concept, a true partnership opportunity as we continue to grow.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of started in the software-defined networking space in SASE, Secure Access Service Edge, and moved upstream very quickly into the security space through funding. Over the last couple of years, we've been able to expand our global presence. We've been able to pick up a whole series and create a whole series of components that fit together and give you a modular opportunity to consolidate components, like I said, that you might be using different players on today, or even bring in a series or a modular licensing stack that will work with what you've got installed today and then put you in a position to make changes down the road if you choose to. So we'll show off all of that today. So if you want to go ahead and bring up my slides, I promise there's just a few of them.
Yeah, man.
We'll jump into that. We'll jump into the portal. I'm a technical person. I am not a salesperson. So
So
I
I
don't
like.
know if folks throw technical questions, I'll be able to answer them. At the end of the presentation, though, we'll throw up a QR code, zap it. You can set up a demo with one of our AEs, and then myself or somebody from my team would actually help you set up your Total instance and
Mm-hmm.
start rolling out to your customers. That's part of the service that we offer as well. So great. So like I said, I'll be brief with the platform here, and I mentioned some of the pieces. And just bringing together all of those best-in-class security capabilities on a single agent, right? That's totally modular. It's just one click to make changes to what you have deployed. It's not uninstall, reinstall. I'll show you all of those pieces. It's pretty cool. So let me actually hit the space bar here. 15,000 businesses, 24 countries, 6 continents currently. You know, we're just banging it, bringing it as far as our global presence is concerned. We have 40 POPs throughout the globe when we're talking about our SASE, Secure Access Service Edge, software-defined networking implementation. And so, you know, as SASE becomes an up-and-comer, you know, in the SMB space, it's still kind of new. In fact, it's kind of interesting how the SMB space works versus the enterprise space. I'll talk about that more because my opinion is the SMB space is where the world is, and then the enterprise space is like that big. So
Yeah.
that's just my opinion. So all of the networking and security pieces into one component, one piece of fabric. How many different interfaces do you have to log into? And I'm not talking about a platform where you just have a bunch of links to other websites, right? So Secure Access Service Edge built on Zero Trust Network Access, that's baked right into our wide area networking model. Managed Cloud SIEM, Security Information and Events Management. It's not just log aggregation. It's taking all of the logs, correlating across the different services, and being able to tell you A, B, and C across SaaS applications, on-prem services, what happened, when, how, and give you that kind of visibility. We do have our own next-gen antivirus and endpoint detection and response product. We have our managed extended detection response team. That's the equivalent of MDR. The X includes some of the integrations that I'll show you for some of the different products that we can bring in for logging. SOAR, security orchestration, automated response. I don't know about you, but I've rolled over in the middle of the night and seen that somebody's BEC just popped. And now I know I'm going to have a ruined day. And with SOAR, you can have a disabled user account instead of a BEC. So if that's attractive to you, we can talk about that. And there is a governance, risk, and compliance module. There's actually other stuff in here that's not even mentioned that we'll cover today because they're moving so fast on development. And that's the thing, guys, from the security standpoint, the bad guys move really fast, right? We're MSPs. What we do is we have to keep our customers ahead of the curve. We have to bring it to them, which means we have to stay proactive, continuously evolve, right? Once you stop evolving, you're dead. So here's a visual representation of all those different components. But like I had mentioned before, this is a modular platform. This is not a consume it all or don't do it at all. And I'll show you what I mean just based on some of the solutions that are here. So I think that might be the end of my, it is, yay, lucky everybody. So let's get that out of the way. Thank you for bearing with my slides here. And then we will get this in the way.
Oh, okay, here we go. All right, there you go.
Yeah, there we go. Oh, cool. Okay, yeah. I guess you didn't even see my transition. Nice. So welcome to the Total Portal, guys. This is what the Total Portal looks like at a global level. When you basically have your own instance, your own parent tenant, and this would be representative of any of the downstream tenants that you might have. Let's start first things first from a management standpoint. In my all tenants view, if I go straight to integrations, I just want you guys to know right off the top, ConnectWise and AutoTask, I can integrate directly with your ticketing system, bidirectional sync right out of the box for anything security related where we're creating cases and tickets on your boards, whether your team is taking care of those tickets or our team is taking care of those first hits and triage. All of those notations are all bidirectional through our integrations, right? Really easy to set up. You can plug it in directly with our platform. And then all these downstream tenants, if you're anything like me, you have scenarios where you might have a co-managed setup, right? And so this is something you can offer to your downstream tenants, to their, those downstream IT teams. So through team administration here, I can build access policies that'll allow me to provide access to individual tenants and view, edit, or hide on individual components depending on what you have deployed. So, from that aspect, you've got a lot of different ways to skin the cat, whether you are providing this as a downstream tool to another IT team, providing MSSP services for your customers, bolting this into or adding on or consolidating an existing MSP offering. All of these things are super, super valuable from the standpoint of being able to give you that visibility. So let's go into one of our downstream tenants. This is A1 Architects. This is my little lab tenant. So we'll take a look at the different components that are here. So first thing, cases. So when we talk about our next-gen antivirus and our SIEM product, this is the cases section. If we create suppressions, you'll see them here. SOAR components live in the playbooks and response actions. But actually, let's start off with the modular component of the install, just so that you can understand that piece to start with. So what we do, we go to our license manager. So you create your tenant, your A1 Architects tenant. You create a license group, right? You go through the licensing group and you pick the individual components that you want to roll out. You can see it's called full stack there, right? And what I've done is I've taken this command line script or this PowerShell script and pushed this out with RMM. We're compatible on Mac, Linux. For mobile, you've got SASE availability, one-off binaries. Installation key for the one-off is here, as well as the mobile deployments. Deployment key is baked into these scripts. This is the variable that you would use in your RMM tool to basically identify this tenant and this licensing stack that you've got deployed. Once you push this out across the network, if you ever decide to make a change, whether you're starting with a shorter stack, so to speak, let's say you're just rolling out SASE and EDR, you can edit this guy right here and add components to it, and that'll add it to your deployment without an uninstall, reinstall. You can also just create a new license group and slide it over to that new license group here by device. So you can have multiple license groups here, right? And then change the license group. So pretty slick on the licensing end. The deployment is really easy. Once you're deployed, what you're going to see is the agents sitting in the agents page. And so here we have my lab, my file server, my DC, my IIS server, my workstation that's offsite. You can see that it even says he's offsite or he's somewhere that's not defined. My terminal server, my on-site workstation, right? That's my little lab here. So the idea, first off, with SASE, with Secure Access Service Edge, we run on this 100.64 subnet here. These devices can ping each other out of the box regardless of their location if you don't layer in any other rules or anything else like that. So that's where the software-defined networking of SASE starts, right? With Secure Access Service Edge, what you're doing is you're proxying all of your customers' traffic through total secure global network, and then you're passing it through a series of UTM traffic inspection pieces that you would get on a hardware firewall. And so you have full parity there as far as that traffic is concerned. So I'm going to focus on some of the technical components and the different products. We're going to look at visualizations, and then we'll talk go-to-market. So starting with SASE here for Secure Access Service Edge, here's your controls. You've got traffic control in the firewall. Secure DNS is included. So if you've got a DNS filtering solution in place, this can be a consolidation opportunity. SSL inspection, if you choose to turn it on, web filtering is included. You see that we separate web filtering from DNS. A lot of vendors put those together just depending, right? These are other SKUs, so don't let me confuse you. So an SGN tunnel, I'm going to tell you about it as it relates to SASE. It's a different SKU. LAN Zero Trust, I'm going to tell you about it. It doesn't relate to SASE. It's a different SKU. So for a single SASE license, this is what you have control over on these devices, right? So if we start off in traffic control here, first things first, what we say, lock down all your SaaS applications via conditional access. And this would go whether you're a managed service provider locking down your own tool set, your own RMM, or if we're talking about your customers and locking down their Office 365 instances, any other SaaS applications that allow you to do conditional access. It's really simple. All you do is add a static IP. When you add a static IP, you get a dedicated /32. Here's my Denver dedicated /32. Then I'm going to create a routing policy that basically just says when a device is anywhere, traffic to these destinations. Let's say it's Office 365. Let's say it's your ERP. Let's say it's your accounting software that's in the cloud, right? All of those, you can write your routing policies to egress that specific static IP, satisfying the conditional access, but locking that instance down from the bad guys that aren't coming from that SASE IP. Super powerful, makes it really easy to implement that component. Next piece is the next gen firewall. So you'll have an automatically created rule to allow internet access. This guy right here, devices running SGN Connect, that's the component that lets the SGN enabled devices talk to each other out of the box. You can leave it there, right? And then layer in rules from there, or you can remove it and layer in rules from there. On firewall, we do it. All of us firewall guys do it different. Tell me I'm wrong. Now, on the plus side, the first thing to do though is to roll in your users and groups, right? So let's look in our integrations. Let's look in our identity. So you should roll in Azure AD or Workspace. If you're on Azure with Duo, we can roll with that too, right? But by rolling in your users and groups, what you're able to do in SASE is you're able to leverage the next gen firewall from the standpoint of creating rules where beyond your source device access, you would see your listing of users and groups here, right? So now you can require multi-factor authentication to get to specific resources and really build out that full zero trust network access model, right? Which is actually baked into the WAN infrastructure. You're layering in that internal communication as far as ZTNA. And then when we talk about communication on the LAN, that's where the LAN zero trust piece comes in that we'll talk about later. But you've got full functionality here. Geo blocking, host name or device, application blocking, pick your bad guys or do unallow, however you want to do it.
Do you have like template rules where we could just apply?
So we're working on tenant templating right now. What I've found, that's definitely on our roadmap so that you can kind of duplicate configurations. The reality of like a rollout like this though is that you're going to have an API integration with users and groups. So it would need to be kind of a skeleton. So in the longest term, there will be a way to do it from a scalability standpoint. As you layer in this rule set though, you know, here's one of the cool things. I can disable it instead of just deleting. It's like, oh, that's really handy, right? You can usually just delete it and then it's gone. But anyway, the firewall is really straightforward. You can drag and drop and move rules around as you need to. Roll in those users and groups, start layering things in. DNS, the secure DNS component, it's location aware. So this basically says if my device in this deployment is sitting inside a defined network, I want it to return a LAN IP, but I want to protect all of the lookups that it does, no matter what, right? But if my device is sitting outside, so all other locations and networks, like anything I didn't define as my HQ, I want it to bring back our SGN IP, that 100.64, right? So if I call for a file server inside the network, I get the LAN IP. If I call for the file server outside the network, I get the 164 IP, right? Any way you slice it, I get what I need for that always on VPN concept. But it's so much more than that because you're obfuscating the traffic. I can touch the domain controller that's sitting at .5. So Control Alt Delete, change your password. You're not gonna have cache credential issues offsite. You can hit that device with group policy. The list just goes on and on for the number of tickets that will go away if you move away from endpoint VPN and get into this. But there's a lot of other solutions that are added, like DNS filtering. The SSL inspection is optional. You can choose it on. You can choose to turn it on per tenant. We have it globally active. You can create SSL bypasses here. So if you do have, say, a government website that's out of whack as far as SSL inspection, you can either choose specific devices for bypass or all of the tenant to bypass the SSL inspection layer so they can get through, right, if it's a trusted site. But this way you can actually implement SSL inspection without bringing things to a screeching halt because it's happening on the wire. Web filtering is what you guys would expect, right? It's all category based. So you go through, you set up your categories, you can do users and groups here, you could do multiple content filtering policies per tenant. So your upper level folks that have kind of a looser policy, and then us peasants that have that lower level policy, right? You can apply that at the group or the user level, however you want to do it, and get really granular with it. And that's, go ahead.
So I've noticed a couple of things. First thing, you can, it looks like you can create your own customized block page on the web filtering.
Say again?
If the web filtering, it looked like you can customize a block page. If you go back, there was. You good?
This guy.
Yeah, right there in the middle, the yellow banner. So it says to present customized block pages. Oh, okay. So it has to have. All right. So you could.
So yeah, so to inject the block page, so here's
Yeah.
I'll explain, right? If
Hmm.
SSL inspection is turned off, if there's a block that happens here, it will present to the end user as a timeout. It will
Yeah.
still
Okay.
report, you'll still be able to see it. You'll still be able to work around it if you want them to get to it. If
Okay.
SSL inspection is turned on, they will get a true block page.
Okay.
That's
Is
what that's
this
saying.
all right? So the I'll only ask because you know how white labeling is really important to MSPs. So it was just
Yeah.
one of those things I've noticed. And can I do this per client if I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
customize it, or is it just sort of a
All
universal?
all the brandability is per tenant as well as
Okay.
global. Yep. So all of that functionality is there. Yep. So that's what I'm saying. If you think about the UTM functionality that you pay for usually on a subscription basis on a hardware firewall, in the longest term, you could start rolling those types of things back and saving your customers some money there. It's not always appropriate to roll an infrastructure without a firewall, but I've seen places that stand up overnight that are all home based. How do you build them a network and control things and centrally manage things with a software defined SASE network? How do you bring a whole bunch of different locations together and provide remote access for all these offsite users and folks that work from everywhere, on-site, off-site, airport, hotel, all this stuff, the tickets that come in, the client reinstalls, the endpoint VPN stuff, the cache password stuff, all of that is resolved. I wonder if I just lost Garrett. Pretty sure I still have you guys. Anyway, next step down here is the SGN tunnels. So this is part of SASE, but it's an if, right? You don't always need it. A lot of the times we can do everything we need to do with DNS. But if you have agentless devices, so things that are not Windows, Mac, and Linux that can't
Hmm.
roll our agent, that's where you use an SGN tunnel, right? And so when you create an SGN tunnel, you're terminating an IPsec tunnel from our secure global network down to an endpoint firewall, opening up that subnet, kind of like a traditional VPN, but you still have full control over that access through our next gen firewall, right?
Hmm.
And when you create an SGN tunnel, it's not a metered service, it's a flat service, but you can see we're templated out for just about all the major manufacturers out there. So IoT devices, big plotters that the architects need to hit from home, that type of stuff. You can hit those LAN IPs on the inside by implementing an SGN tunnel if you need to. Like I said, though, a lot of the time we're doing everything with DNS, like I was showing before.
Yeah.
And so the LAN access, you may or may not need access to those LAN IPs. You're going to need routes to them, and the tunnel will accomplish that if you're going to pop that stuff open. Otherwise, you should keep it closed and close your endpoint VPN hole too. Haha. Anyway, that's SGN tunnels, pretty straightforward. Again, that's a separate SKU. You get everything here with a SASE license per device per month. SGN tunnel is per month, not metered, but flat fee. So whether there's dozens or hundreds of folks coming through that tunnel, you're in good shape. I like that model personally. Land Zero Trust here. Make sure I'm keeping it to moving on time. Land Zero Trust, the concept, everything we talked about in SASE has everything to do with egress and ingress, north and south, in and out, firewall and back, right? Now let's talk about inside the network, east, west, pingability, LAN IP to LAN IP. If you and I, Garrett, are sitting inside the same network, I can ping you, you can ping me. I hope so. Otherwise, our computers ain't working right? So what do you generally do? You VLAN or you segment the network in some fashion, right?
Hmm.
This provides the micro segmentation concept without having to bring in additional hardware. And so when you enable LAN Zero Trust, what you're doing is you're defining the LAN. And then what you're doing is you're saying, okay, specific devices on this LAN have access to specific devices on this LAN, but not all of them. And it's designed to kill that lateral spread. So what we're showing here, if there's no LAN Zero Trust exceptions for my source device to reach my devices on the LAN, don't worry, I can talk to the DC. We've got all the normal stuff in there, so all that stuff works. But if it's a file server and I don't want them to be able to get to it, if I don't have a rule for them to be able to get to it, they're not going to. Here's the one directional rule says I can send a print job. But in the rare instance, even though people talk about it, that a printer gets slammed, it can't talk back to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what this is showing here. It's not two ways, right? And then here's the two-way. If we're talking about a file server, it needs to go both ways, right? So here's the logic. The logic is on your LAN, you've probably backed up all of your servers, but if you have 100 Windows 11 devices, right? If one of them gets bombed with something, yeah, it's going to nuke your servers because it's got the ability to get there, but it's not going to spread across your hundreds of Windows 11 devices. I don't think you have that kind of hardware laying around. And so that's what LZT does, right? And so it takes a little bit of planning to get it laid out correctly, so you know what folks are accessing. There are rip cords built in while you do your deployment, so you can provide temporary access as you work through finding the correct settings or the correct exceptions, so to speak. And then when that device leaves that LAN, that defined LAN, it's locked down, it's protected. Does that produce some complexity? It does, but does it produce a higher level of protection? It does.
Yeah, I could definitely say. So how would this work with like subnets? So usually when I'm in an office, we would subnet the printers, the the cameras, everybody's. Would I have to have? Can I do it within the same one, or do I need to have? Yeah. How would something like that work?
I'm going to choose, right? So what I have is I have a series. I can have a whole series of defined networks, and here's how we define the networks. I'll show you. So when you create a rule, well, let me finish this out, and then I'll show you the definitions, right? So here, it's basically like a firewall. Now it's inside this HQ. What's the source? What's the destination? What's the traffic type, right? Is it users or groups? Users or groups are doable, right? So this set of devices has access to this file server, for example, right? So that's the way that you layer it in. And the way that the device knows where it is based on this. So in locations and networks, what we're doing when a device is sitting on a network, it sees a unique combination of an internal gateway MAC address and a subnet. The subnet's not unique. It's the gateway MAC and the subnet that makes it a unique combo. You with me? So inside this HQ, this is the building. And then in here, I can have as many networks defined as I want to, right? And so now if the device is inside there, it sees that subnet, it sees that gateway MAC. Here's how this presents for SASE and for any of the other rule sets that we're talking about. The device is location aware right here, right? So this sees that it's not looking at the defined gateway MAC and subnet address that's inside the network. And we can even see that it's behind a 209 public instead of my 67 public that is the rest of my lab, right? And so, but check this out. If I don't know anything about that network and I need to take care of it, no problem. This is going to be the Heath house, right? And this is going to be house as well. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to flip this to 10, 11, 10/24. Yep, look, it's already there for me. Oops. Tab. And then there's my gateway MAC. It picked it up, right? So I adjusted my subnet and I added my gateway MAC. It picked up my public, right? And so now if I add this, it's going to show up instead of blue as house. And then when I go to write any kind of rules, DNS rules, any kind of web filtering, I can use that location to do things with. When stuff's inside house, it performs Y. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So that's how we define our locations and networks and apply it to the system there. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, just going to jump in here a little bit quick because I see people coming in and out. For everybody who's watching, if you're on LinkedIn or YouTube, feel free to drop a comment. You have questions. Matter of fact, we actually had one drop in. It went away, I think, because my internet cut off and went back, so it's gone out. But basically, we're not there yet. But Heath, I just wanted to sort of note it for you when you get to it. They were asking what kind of SIM you guys are using, things like that. I don't know if you saw that. But,
yeah, no doubt.
Yeah,
that's actually that's actually the next place we're headed. So good call. So let's look at SIM and EDR. So security information and events management, like we talked about the installation before, right? For SIM, if you're installing on a Windows, Mac, or Linux device, you're gathering all the logs. that's
Yeah.
being shipped right into our cloud SIEM. All of that information is landing here in this big search bucket. This is the primary repository, not where people live. You can see it even takes a minute to come up. So all the logging is here, the raw logging, it's indexable, right? So anything for endpoint for the EDR side, anything on the SASE side we were talking about, anything for integrations, and we're going to talk about how integrations work for our SIEM, all that raw data lands here. Now, the point is there's two things that happens with this data, right?
Yeah.
All of this is run against detection rules, and detection rules will create cases to tell you something's happening on the network. In case it's a bad guy, it could be legit activity, just depends, right? EDR, next gen AV, that's just a full-blown prevention. That's a little different than SIEM, blows it off the planet. SIEM tells you things are happening. So if a set of logs comes in that's malicious or suspicious, a case gets created. When a case gets created, it lands in this bucket. If you have the integration I was showing you with your ticketing system, you've got a ticket on your end as well. If you have our MXDR team handling the triage here, they're going directly into the event and going after the event itself. If you're serving yourself, this is the view that you would have as well, right? So whether you're serving yourself or our team's taking care of things, this is the view that you've got on the case. This is a malware prevention event. You can see there's been 15 alerts analyzed, which created 4 cases. So there's been multiple events that happen per device here, and those have been bucketed into single cases with timelines. So here in my alert data, I have my timeline of each individual component that makes up this alert. Instead of getting 5 different cases for that device, I got 1, much easier to go after. If I'm not exactly sure what to do, I can go through some of the triage steps here. If I'm really worried, I can go ahead and isolate the host. I can just push the button and isolate the host, right? That's part of our SOAR activity. You isolate the host. If this were an Office 365 example with the correct graph permissions in place, you would disable the user account with a push of a button, right? Or with the SOAR pieces, you can have some of that happen by itself, automatically, without a human being doing anything, right? And that's where where it really gets powerful. And that's based on SIEM data coming in, right? Cases getting created. Sources for SIEM data are going to be Windows, Mac, and Linux, and then what you see on this screen. So if you see a branded integration on this screen, it means that I've got a ready to go integration. All of the usual suspects are there, 365, Azure, collecting those logs, dumping them all into one spot, hardware firewalls. You'll see existing EDR and next-gen AV as far as being able to bring that logging in. And so all of this logging coming into one place allows us to correlate against those different logging sources, right? And even write additional detection rules. So just recently, our team came up with more rules based on some identity attacks that we saw through Azure and 365 combo logging, right? So with that combination, we have even deeper visibility. So those are your sources. That's your case concept. That's your SOAR activity concept. And then from a visibility standpoint, all of that data that we've been looking at is used to create the actual visual information, right? In fact, let's go to the Insights dashboard as a quick traffic example. So this is going to be our last 24 hours of just some browsing info, right? So let's say here's top blocked categories, right? Maybe this is not as benign as it looks, right? But maybe I'm interested in investigating it. I don't need to know how to query the SIEM. I can just drill right in and go see who's shopping around, right? And when I drill in and find out who's shopping around, I can see that Workstation 1 went to Shane Company. Oh, free plug. Anyway, so that's on our block list, right? So it's really easy to see what's going on. But as far as the visualizations and the way that the raw data is coming in, that was my point. You don't live in the raw data, right? And anything you see here is something you give back to your customer. So let's look at like a raw overview of the last 24 hours on the MXDR side here. I'm gonna have to refresh this guy and get him coming up, but we're gonna see MTTA, we're gonna see all of the alert details, how it links back to MITRE attack, what the alert or the rule name is that was hit, who the host is. So all of this data that's being dumped into the SIEM, into this primary bucket, that's all of this stuff, right? So here's the EDR dashboard, right? If we take a look at this piece, we can see those breakdowns and drill directly in. And you see it takes a minute to pull all this dashboard data in this all tenants view. We're taking all of the data across all those tenants and plugging this into that dashboard for you. And so that way, if you have some kind, and I've seen this before, if you have some kind of a process outlier across all of your customers that you didn't know about, I've seen it bring that to light. So like, let me show you one of my favorite. I made my own really cool global dashboard, and it'll take a minute to come up. But when it comes together here, you're going to see. So first, I've got my map of network traffic there. I think I'm pretty cool with most of that. I might look at some of those countries and see if I'm cool with all of them as far as just the network traffic. Right, here's my browsing categories in general. You know, maybe I'm going to go look for some time wasters. Again, maybe these are not as benign countries as they seem to be, and we might want to drill in and go and understand what those hits are, and maybe do some geographic blocking, right? So this is the type of visibility and what you can peel out. Windows account creations by host, added to the admin group. If I create a user account, and I added to the domain administrators group, do you want to know, Garrett, if it's your network?
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So like that type of visibility, right? Failed logons, who's had to chase down a lockout they couldn't find, right? So you're able to drill into the lockouts. If you see hundreds of lockouts for C Hall there, you can drill down and go find the device information, and now you can find your lockouts. RDP, did you even know it was happening on your network? It is. Right? Right. And this is just stuff that's coming in from Windows logging, right? And so again, there's detection rules that are built against all of these logs. The visibility and the visualizations are just that. Any of the integrations that I showed you before in the integrations page for SIEM allows you to produce the same type of visualization. If we're talking co-managed teams, they've got this. If we're talking delivering it back to your customer, I'm global. I wouldn't deliver this back to my customer, but at a per tenant, right? I can go and I can download this. I can schedule it as like an every 30-day report. I can even get into governance, risk, and compliance components here. So this also will take a moment to do telemetry. Let's do one that everybody might be, or a lot of people seem to be interested in. And we'll have data in some places for the last 24, but not everywhere. So blocked network traffic by host and port, the actual CMMC control set there. Right. So as you go down and these start to resolve, and again, it's looking at the control set and looking at whether or not you're covering that control set. So the idea here is to give you the visibility that you might not have, and the cases and the alerting, so that you can kind of understand what's going on a network. When you're looking across the entire customer base, it's really easy to start to see trends and places where simple hardening tactics that you can take will start to secure that network even further across the entire customer base. So on the SIEM side, that's what we're talking about: security information events management, integrations with SaaS applications. If you're not using our EDR or next-gen AV, I can probably ingest what you're using. I don't know if you saw those logos, but we're pretty much covered across the board on what the SMB space is using for ingestion. Same thing on hardware firewalls, whether you're using SASE or not, right? And that's my point. Maybe you do SASE and SIEM. Maybe you just need SIEM. It depends on what you're trying to solve for your customer, right? If you're like me and you had a whole bunch of endpoint VPN tickets and then COVID came, you wondered where SASE was your entire life. If you've had BECs and you've rolled over in the middle of the night, had to clean up that mess, you've wondered where SOAR is your whole life. And those automated responses, disabling accounts, things like that. So it's a quality of life changer, whether you're serving yourself, whether the team is helping you with it from a security standpoint. And as far as the modular capabilities there, what I've seen folks do is exactly that. I've seen SASE rolled into an environment so that UTM functionality subscription level can get rolled back. And then when it was time to refresh the firewall, I saw the scale of the firewall, we'll call it, roll back just a little bit, right? From something super high end to something that wasn't quite as, just didn't need to be so beefy, right? And so these are the types of changes that you can make over time. Once that was in place, they decided, or their contract came up for one of their EDR and next-gen AV products that was widely spread across their customer base, right? Everywhere they had SASE, they could just edit the license and throw my EDR in, right? Same concept for SIEM, you know, if you're talking about rip and replace scenarios, just depending on the type of solutions that you're trying to bring forward to your customer, and being able to really improve the security posturing, get their traffic out of the wild on SASE, have all of the visibility on SIEM, get EDR and next-gen AV into an integrated scenario, and even application blocking, trusted applications, endpoint policies. So on the EDR side, this is how easy it is to set up. You'll just go and actually first I'll go into a tenant because I've got a global policy there. So we throw a global prevent policy in place as a backstop, and then we go ahead and layer in the tenant level policy. So if I forget to do one, I've got one in place. But when I create my policy, I'm going to place each of these into prevent mode. These are the different components that make up the next-gen AV and AV product, or excuse me, an EDR product. I'm going to choose a few other things as far as trusted applications that I have in other places. Here's some things that I have on my block list. Of course, I want Dropbox out of here. If you're installing Revo, you're probably going to do something bad. And Qt PDF, I'll put up with you today. So in the advanced settings, we roll just fine with the built-in Windows Defender. So this leaves it turned on and in place side by side, or you can disable Defender. And then whether or not you want to display notifications at the endpoint. That's it. So you're all set on EDR.
Okay. So for the EDR, you're basically using the Windows Defender.
No.
I mean,
this setting here,
yeah.
in the policy, let me get back to the policy. So you have two choices. So no, we're not using Windows Defender. This right here is whether or not, if this right here says do not disable Windows Defender AV, right? So this puts a registry key in that leaves Windows Defender in place. All of the alerting still comes through. If anything gets past Defender, we're slamming it. If you flip it the other direction, this will register our AV instead. Right?
Okay, gotcha.
So that's the flip side. So you choose, right? But no, we're not just leveraging Defender. It's just we roll nice with them, right? And so that's the concept. And then if you're on a paid Defender, that was the other thing here. That's the freebie Defender. If you're on a paid Defender, right? Defender for cloud or Defender for endpoint, I can integrate those logs. So if you already have the licensing for that and you're doing that, I can ingest that, right? And that way you've got all of your data along with your Windows data coming into one spot, along with your 365 data. It's all reporting in one place. And you have the cases coming in based on anything suspicious or malicious that's happening there.
What's the log ingestion time? Is it like, I just figured it, or are you pulling like a year prior, or in your
yeah, so we have options as far as how long logs are retained. Right now it's anything from 30 days to 5 years. And those things can change. And that's why, so at the end of this, we're going to put up a QR code. I want everybody to zap it, slam their stuff in, get a quick demo with one of our account executives. Like I said, if you decide to get into a trial with us, myself or somebody from my team will sit down, configure with you, install on devices as a proof of concept, right? So all that's available when we're done here. Because I mean, that's really where it's at, is how are you going to implement this for your customer based on their existing set of solutions and what your goals are, right? And so that's kind of where we're coming from. So I got a great job from a LinkedIn user. Sweet. So
it's I don't know why it's not showing their info, but yeah, just want to pop that out there.
Yep. So a quick run through on governance, risk, and compliance, because there's a few things in here that would have come in real handy for me not that long ago in a past life. So I'll share this and we'll tell some stories. We looked quickly at the reporting side of the dashboarding side. But first things first, security framework here. When we look at the security framework, this is for A1 architects specifically. This is an ongoing security process you can go through to go through the control sets in each domain in order to create outputs, right? And these outputs will land in your compliance assessments as far as the documentations that are here. So depending on what components you might be going after, I had a lot of customers coming to me as this compliance, this governance, risk, and compliance thing started becoming a thing that MSPs had to answer to, right? For their customers, right? These questions are coming, these fastballs are coming down, and then we need to be able to manage them. So if a customer comes to you and they're like, hey, my cybersecurity insurance guy says I need to comply with something. I don't know what it is though. Okay, compliance assistant. So this is a billion questions that you answer about that. It's not that many. This is a whole bunch of questions, right? You go through these questions, and based on the way that these questions are answered, it's going to give you an output that says you should be HIPAA compliant, you should be PCI compliant, you should be X, Y, or Z. So that way you can help establish a North Star for your customer, right? And help establish what they're going to start moving towards. And I'm going to be very clear, there's nothing inside GRC that's going to make somebody compliant with anything. We're not here to audit that. What we're here to is try and help them get ready for that. So that's what we're talking about doing, right? So in this GRC component, and what would have really come in handy for me, I worked with just about every different vertical you can think of out there. And it blew me away how many were missing a written password policy out of the box. It's wild, right? So here's ready to go security policies. You can edit these, right? You go through and make them exactly, they need to be squared away exactly for this customer based on the security framework that you're trying to hit. And again, remember, you can do this co-managed. So if they have a security officer inside, right, you can start working with them or have them start working on things. So this is a way for you to start leveraging things, right, where you don't necessarily have to become the security compliant the compliance expert. We're talking security, we're talking compliance. So, bringing forth these policies and procedures, I know you can charge plenty for that. End of story. And then, as far as the security assessment component, from say a sit down with the prospect, talk about the way they think they're looking now. Let's say, we sit down and we talk to them and we go through this assessment, and based on everything they've got here, we're able to come back and give them some recommendations from us as far as bumping up their security posturing, right? So this is more of the sit down. You don't really have a footprint in there yet. You're trying to get a feel for what they've got going on. You're trying to get a feel for what you should bring forward, but you haven't zapped the network. You haven't done a full discovery yet. You're going to, right? But this just gives you more to crunch through as far as outputs that you can use and reporting that you can use in order to create that relationship and start that conversation. I mean, if it's not coming downstream at you already, it's going to. So get prepared for some way to handle it. And, folks are handling it in different ways. I talk to managed service providers every single day, and every single day this comes up, just GRC in general, along with all the different point products that kind of come together in order to make it happen. So, with that, at the end of the rainbow, when the rubber hits the road and we talk about reportability, let's say HIPAA, LOS 24, this concept of being able to download or schedule. So if I set a 30-day window and set this up as a scheduled report, every 30 days, it'll pop out to whoever I want it to. I want to send it to me and then I'll forward it on. Do I want it to go directly to whomever I'm reporting to? Whatever. What's it going to do? It's going to take the time frame and it's going to plug all the data in from that time frame. So if you do 30 days here, right, in your time picker, it's going to take longer to resolve. Everything's going to be in there. If you download it, it's going to be quite a sizable PDF there. Once you have that happening, you've got a paper trail, right? You can show what you're covering from a control set and show where your gaps are, and create that poem, that plan of action and milestones, and continue working with your customer and working towards that control set. So this is where really the proof comes in, right? And what I found in just doing governance, risk, and compliance, and then audits in general before that, the more paper you have to throw at somebody, the better off you're going to be. The more paper trail you have and proof that you have that you're doing X, Y, or Z, the better off you're going to be.
That
Tell
is
me
100%
I'm wrong.
true.
And then tell me through your managed services career, whether you're a technician, somebody that vets products for your company, the business owner, whatever level you're at, tell me you haven't been promised really great reporting your whole life. You're going to get great reporting. Tell me that's not good reporting. We finally have good reporting.
Okay? Yeah, you know.
Yay. So both sides, the dashboard side where it's interactive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, what does it mean to who, right? What does it mean to who? So you can customize everything I've shown you. If there's 6 widgets that is going to make your customer go shebang, you can put that on a customized report and deliver that to them every 30 days with your invoice and say, check it out, right? And even, you know, seeing if they're seeing a reduction in case alerts and security events over time, and if you're sitting down and reviewing their ticketing report with them and their total report with them and looking at dragging these, it gives you materials and proof to you know, talk about your initiatives in dragging their infrastructure forward, whether we're talking security, whether we're talking GRC. And it really doesn't matter anymore, guys. If, you know, if you have some big business come to you and if one of your customers has a partnership upcoming, I've seen this happen left and right, right? The company that's approaching them is like, hey, we want to do this thing, but before we do this thing, we need to know about how you do your stuff from a security standpoint, right? And now you got to like pass their bar before they're going to do business with you. So anyway, it comes in all different shapes and sizes. The visibility, the reporting, the constant evolution of the product and the detection rules is incredibly important. Right?
Yeah, I love how you guys are doing this, because it's just like you said, you know, reporting's the best, you know, and the way it's laid out it's a big deal. I like the way you guys are doing this because I can see the sources. But just real quick, just to let you know, we have 5 minutes left. So,
yep. So yeah, you know, last piece just on MXDR reporting and just the final piece in bringing that forward. This is the reporting from the MXDR side. If you are teamed up with our team for our, as far as our MXDR service is concerned, you get a dedicated response account manager. You get a channel through Slack or Teams, your choice, 24/7 to our team. These are really smart people that are always watching, right? So that you can sleep better at night. We can bring that quality of life. And then if you want to take a look here, here's a quick QR code. Let's see. You tell me if that's coming up the right way.
It is. Looks good.
So zap that bad boy or go to total.com/contact, fill out the form. Let's get on, let's take a look. And then seriously, think about it. If you did a proof of concept with us and you installed some of these components inside your network and we found stuff that you didn't know what was happening, what would you say? Because it happens to be like a lot.
Oh yeah.
So it happens a lot. So you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean that is something that is, you know, you try different tools, you look at different platforms, and there are things that you're kind of like, well, why didn't it show them this one? And then show over here. So you tend to, the more is better, you know? So it's really interesting for that. So I would definitely be, yeah, that's what I always look for. You know, what do you show me? What do you not show me? You know? So.
Well, and like I said, you know, it's kind of that example I made before. The user account that gets created, right? It's kind of an older, like an on-prem scenario, right? But user account gets created, gets slammed into the domain admin group. In the past, I've had to build service monitors on my RMM in order to know that was happening.
Yeah.
And I've been and I found a bunch of Easter eggs, you know what I'm saying? So like that's just an example of something that feels like living off the land stuff, that's low-hanging fruit, that you have to detect on, you have to have visibility on. If somebody changes a transport rule in Office 365 for mail, right, for somebody's mailbox to forward everything somewhere, you want to know. It could have been them. It could be a bad guy, right? So those are just the concepts, right? It's in the logging, but unless you know how to go find it, you're not going to know what's happening.
Yeah,
That's
And
the
that's one of the, see, I like what you guys are doing because kind of to your point right there, it's in there. You just have to go find it. You seem to have pulled a lot of this together in ways where it's like, just like that. How do you know if somebody is forwarding email to an external email or whatever? Is there it's false positive? Well, they forward it, but it's actually going to maybe a distribution that's the
exactly.
I like how you guys are doing this because um,
And I'll
is
do
that
it, and
thing.
I'll do it for you on a proof of concept with this, but I didn't show it in the demo here. But in that big search bucket where all that text is, that big
Mm-hmm.
primary search bucket that everything's dumping into, you can query that, right? And then based on the query that you've written, you can create a visualization. You can pick the display type that you want, and then pick the output types that are there and build your own custom widget. So when somebody says, I have this super duper heavy duty file, and anytime somebody touches it, I need to know, you can. Like,
Yeah.
it's wild, right? You can get super duper heavy with those visualizations. So anyway, really good. Really appreciate the time. Hopefully folks got something out of this one way or
What?
another.
Yeah, I appreciate. I was going to say, and I always like to make sure that everybody who's watching, especially for those of you who weren't able to watch it live, this is recorded, so you could watch it obviously after the fact. You're watching it now, but um, feel free to go to total.com, check them out. Just like he was saying, but also, here at Channel Program, you go to channelprogram.com, search for Total. One of the good things about our platform is you're going to see what other MSPs who are, sort of so to speak, have been in the trenches are saying about Total. You've been looking at the reviews. So see what others are saying because, we're all a tight knit group and we really rely on each other for that. So go to channelprogram.com, search for Total. And they also, it looks like you have a community aspect as well. So that is very good too. There's nothing, man, things change so fast and we rely on each other. So it's really good to see that you have this community aspect, happening here. So is there anything about this that you want to touch upon before we jump out?
Well, I shorted this. So this, the go-to-market stuff, I shorted it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
first off, Total community, right? This
Yeah.
is our internal team. This is MSPs using our product.
Yeah.
This is campaigns in a box for marketing, right? You're going to get a CSM, customer success manager, and a go-to-market strategist. So once you become a Total partner, you get access into the community, you get access to all of our components here as far as being able to go to market, and then we enable. This demonstration that I did today, I have done for an MSP's downstream customer on their behalf. And
Oh,
it's happened,
okay.
right?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
So our team is great at partner enablement. And again, like I come from the MSP space. I know what all of us are facing every single day. And it's really great to have a partner in the market who's super smart that you can go to and that is constantly developing. And then, the university is here. So we have a wide product stack, but everything we talked about, you can get SASE certified. You don't have to, right? This is a very intuitive platform, but it's all there. And then, it is definitely an MSP level tool. So if we talk about the different components in the university, the different components in the community, as far as the way that different MSPs are using Total, that's going to come forward pretty quick. And then here we go, right? Something as simple as just the searchability inside the help center. So we try and really lay it out. And then the onboarding and deployment team, the team that I manage, is here to help you as far as getting your deployments going for your customers. So zap the QR code, fill it out. An AE will take you through this, and then we'll get going on actually showing it to you.
Okay. Dude, Heath, this has been awesome, very eye-opening. I love what you guys are doing.
Me too. Thank you.
Yeah. And I hope others out there feel free to reach out to Keith. You could drop a comment in LinkedIn, YouTube. They will see it as well, or just scan the code and reach out to them, or just reach out to them via channelprogram.com. But I think we're gonna wrap it up. So Heath, any last words, or are we good to go?
Now, just it's always great to sit down and be able to talk to my MSP brothers and sisters. You know, it's a great community that we live inside of. It turns out it's a really tiny space. I thought when I got into this that it was a big, huge IT world, but gosh, the players and the names and the faces, kind of interesting. So
yeah,
good to see everybody out there. Maybe you've seen me before too, but we'll definitely see you around the corner.
Absolutely.
Cool.
All right, man. Well, cool. Well, thank you everybody for joining. Heath, thank you very much. This was awesome. And yeah, until next time, everybody, we'll see you out there.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.